And hey, it's Evan Kirstel here on a Friday with another great conversation. A new collaborator of mine, Mike Moore, not that Mike Moore, but Mike Moore of Dell. And we're going to go a little back to the future with this episode. How are you, Mike?
I'm doing well, Evan. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. I definitely am a follower, a fan, and an admirer of these series, so I'm really honored to be a part of it.
Oh, likewise. Yeah, no, and I'm really interested in your background and role at Dell. But first, let's talk about your background here. Is that a cattle in the background? Is that a steer? What are we working with there in your background?
That
I'm
is,
guessing you're in Texas, being
yeah, I am
Dell
definitely
country.
in Texas, and as all good Texans, we all will need to have buffalo or cattle skulls over our fireplaces, and that just happens to be a buffalo.
That's a buffalo. No kidding. Well, that's a good one. And we'll talk about your hobbies and interest in being a rancher, a cattle farmer, later on. But maybe first some introductions. You're kind of an old guy like myself, been in this industry for far too long. I'm thinking you have about 30 years in. Is that right? Not that
Yeah,
I'm
thereabouts.
just guessing.
Yeah, yeah, I would say probably about the same. 1983 high school grad, made it through college in a little over 5 years, and started off at McDonnell Douglas working on the F-18 fighters. And after that, I moved to
Wow.
but that was just for a little over a year. Although it was during the first Gulf War, which was certainly an exciting time to be involved with defense. Moved on to Motorola in South Florida at that point. Worked on two-way radios, and then for 4 years, and moved here to Texas, where I worked on paging infrastructure.
Whoa,
For
whoa, whoa. Stop. Let's cut that. Paging infrastructure. I was in the paging business, and these kids, they don't even know what pagers are. I have to explain to them every time. They're like cell phones without voice communication, just texting, right?
Well, yeah, I mean that's what it is. The pager's an app on a phone now. And it has taken many different uh, lives. As far as the different types of messaging service. But one of the things in paging that I still find kind of humorous to this day is that we had one of our VPs stand up in front of us when the phones, like when the Microtac from Motorola first came out, the flip phone, and
I remember it well.
yeah, they were threatening about different types of functions beyond just voice that they were going to be able to put on these phones. And our VP stood up in front of us all in the town hall and said, "I can tell you with certainty that we will never see a pager function on a cellular telephone."
Wow. Well, he really
And
nailed it with that
yeah,
prediction, right? So I wonder where he is now. I'm guessing
just
maybe
a
in
tad
the
bit off there.
banking industry or something. But we carried on in telecom, and we went through paging, and then we got to 1G and 2G and 3G and 4G, and here we are at 5G, and here you are at Dell, where Dell's right in the heart of what's going on in the 5G space. But before we get to that, so you were at these big telco vendors, Nokia, and then Motorola. So that's kind of where
Yeah, so
you built your chops, right, in the industry.
I, I moved into cellular, into the CDMA side, and went through CDMA 1X, and then EVDO, and then moved into LTE. And following I guess about 10 years ago, Nokia Solutions, the infrastructure side, was purchased by Nokia. So I came over and started basically doing about the same job in Nokia as I was in Motorola, which was really working on core infrastructure. The MME, S&P gateway, and just kind of stayed in that architecture role for a while. And how things shift over time, and R&D gets moved to different locations, and testing get moved to different locations. I kind of had a choice one day. Either I move into a new R&D unit that I really didn't see having a long-term future, or I go into solutions management and really sort of start to marry myself closer to the customer, and start, not just designing the solutions that I had done for the last 20 years, but actually starting to, configure and implement those and propose, solutions for customers. So I found that really, I really enjoyed that. I was always the first one in R&D to go out to the first office applications, because I thought it was really important to not only just design and implement the products, but see how they are actually deployed and used by the customer. I really kind of think that creates a closed loop on the whole R&D cycle. And I was really surprised when I first started that the engineers in my group, none of them really wanted to travel, which, I didn't understand. It's like, we need you to go spend 2 weeks in Tokyo. It's like, okay, yeah, absolutely. I need to go 2 weeks to Thailand.
The good
Yeah,
old days
absolutely.
when the good old days when we actually used to travel. I remember those days. They were a good time. But how does a person like you, with all those technical chops and background and experience, then move into marketing, particularly now at Dell? What was that shift like?
Well, so I have no regrets in leaving, in coming to Dell, or no regrets in leaving Nokia at all. I thoroughly I enjoyed my colleagues there. I still miss them. I still talk to them from time to time. Nokia is certainly doing well now, especially when it comes to 5G deployments. Both Ericsson and Nokia are benefiting well from the 5G rollout. But this was just an opportunity that kind of dropped in my lap one day, and I was intrigued. Like, I've been through R&D, I've been through architecture, I've been through solution management, pre-sales, sales, product management, and maybe this was this is a new challenge for me. So
Absolutely.
so a marketing position. It's a chance for me to continue to learn, and certainly to take my technical background and and leverage that in more of a public facing capacity.
Absolutely. And I find now is certainly in my 30 years in telecom, the most exciting time of my adult lifetime. I mean, the things that are happening in terms of networks and applications and innovation in general is just mind blowing. Over a long time in telecom, we were kind of very incremental, like things just happened slowly and plodded along. And now there's all this excitement and change. What's the biggest shift that you've seen, in the last 5 to 10 years in terms of the industry and direction?
Well, I think over the last 10 years, it would have to be the virtualization of the core. The
Yeah,
movement away from, purpose built infrastructure to more, generic off the shelf uh, servers. And, because we were involved and even the shift sort of even started taking place even before that. The purpose built hardware sort of gave way to like a ATCA type of architecture, which is, x86 Intel reference platform, Broadcom switches, that sort of thing, but in a maybe in a slightly more compact form factor. So, and but now with the densities of today's servers, and the speeds of the networking and the available acceleration, it's it's easy to rack up and deploy 4G cores, 5G cores in a completely virtualized environment.
yeah,
Um,
that's an amazing development considering where we came from. Gosh, everything was a black box. Everything was a mystery. How the insides work, what within hardware, software, custom, even custom hardware. Gosh, that was an interesting shift in the industry. And now, what about you and your team? You're at a big company. You do a lot of things: servers, storage, networking, devices. Gosh knows what else. Security. What does your team within Dell EMC do exactly?
well, so I'm in the telecom systems business. So we focus on supplying solutions to CSPs, to cellular service providers, focused very much on core and on the emerging virtualized RAN and on OpenRAN standards. And so, we most recently, showing Dell's commitment to the edge and to edge compute, we released our XR11 and XR12 servers, which are, based on Intel third generation Xeon processors, support a host of different acceleration options from, GPUs to FPGAs to EASICs and SoCs, single socket, short depth, very wide range of temperature tolerances, which is unprecedented for, something like just a traditional data center server where they kind of like
Right.
it sitting at a nice comfy 22C. These things can operate from -5 all the way up to 55C,
Oh, wow.
which I think is 148 degrees Fahrenheit. I know I don't operate very well at that temperature, so it's actually it's impressive the efforts that Dell is going to create dense compute solutions that can survive out at the edge and the far edge, right? Because that's the big buzz now. That's where everything's moving. You hear talk about how 70% of all data in the next 5 years or so will be created outside the data center. And I mean, you just need to look around your house and you see where all that data is being created. Your Ring doorbells, your video cams, your home security system, your Fitbits, all of that is data that's being created outside of at the edge, and it's just going to
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
And I think of Dell going back, gosh, 30 years professionally, and as a user, as a consumer, I love the Dell website and how it's so like customizable and like everything is just plug and play and Lego. But you really go beyond that, right? With communication service providers. I mean, you're designing stuff in a very customer specific scenario. It's not the catalog, it's not the website, I'm guessing.
No. I mean, we have teams that work very closely with CSPs and and telecom providers in general to help put together solutions that that really justify the expense. The rolling out of a 5G system can cost a company billions of dollars to do. Not just to mention the investment that they put into leasing the spectrum, but just rolling out the hardware, site acquisition, backhaul costs. I mean, all of that. And so we try to put together a right-sized and an optimized solution. Dell really, especially with our CSP customers, we want to be more than just a hardware vendor, right? I mean,
Right.
there's the term trusted advisor. We really want to be, a trusted advisor. That was a role that I very much enjoyed in Nokia. And Nokia had, obviously being in the telecom space, had a very good relationship with CSPs, and and as does Dell, and Dell is working every day to improve that.
That's fascinating. And you do have quite a portfolio when I think of Dell EMC and the breadth and depth of technologies, but you also go up the software stack. I'm thinking VMware, but you're also involved in the creation of some of these standards, right? Like ORAN. What's that been like?
Well, as a matter of fact, I was just asked to serve on ORAN Working Group 7 on the behalf
Wow.
of Dell. And so prior to coming to Dell, I was working volunteering in the Open Compute project. It's basically the Edge project, which is under Telco, and I really enjoy that that level of collaboration that you have from industry adopters. And we've got the same thing going on with ORAN right now. It's really impressive to see the community coming together and creating open standards and open protocols, and really pushing an ecosystem of openness and interoperability. So I was really I was pleased to be able to be involved with OpenRAN, and I'm really impressed with the work that's coming out, and it's it's certainly at this point, there are certain successes you can definitely point to. The certainly the radio interface is an example of that. I think the work that they're doing in the near real-time RIC is going to have a huge impact on the on the optimization of the 5G network. And like I said, I really admire the work that's being done, in a community environment.
Yeah, I love the collaborative nature of our industry, right back from the beginning of 3GPP and all the standards that were defined, and how global this is. I mean, this is not a US only development. I mean, this is a global initiative, and I'm guessing once the pandemic starts to come to an end, you'll be hitting the road, from Dubai to Singapore, talking to customers and solution providers.
I definitely hope we return to that. I think all of us are a little tired of talking to our laptops.
Yeah,
Uh,
me too. Yeah.
and it's certainly before the pandemic, I was traveling all over the world, talking to customers, doing workshops, trying to establish that trusted advisor relationship, and very much look forward to doing that again.
Yeah, I bet. And so in the meantime, I think all of Dell is pretty much in a remote sort of environment, which you guys are set up for, given the technologies you develop in house. How's that going for you?
It's actually going very well. I'm basically my first voluntary job change in almost 30 years coming to Dell. I'm they say that the grass isn't always greener, but there are definitely patches of green over here as far as the way that the Dell works together and collaborates. It's a very a very open environment.
Hey, wait a minute. You're in Texas. I know the grass is never green. It's always various shades of brown. So I just caught you in a fib there.
It's
But in all
actually
seriousness, yes,
it's actually green for about 3 weeks in the spring and 3 weeks in the fall.
that's funny. Speaking of homesteads, you have a bit of a homestead, a ranch going on there. What are you working on?
Well, my wife and I, we raised two kids. They went off to college. We found ourselves sitting in a house that was really too big for some empty nesters. And
Right.
so a couple of years ago, we went and bought. It's 10 acres outside
Oh,
of Dallas
tiny.
Fort Worth. Yeah, it's more than enough for me. And it's certainly I'm never find myself bored. There's always something to do, whether it's a garden or an orchard or planting trees or clearing brush or putting in fences, or there's just something going on. And if I don't have anything to do here, I've got a neighbor next door who has something to do, and he's more than I enjoy that that community that we have out here.
So how many cattle do you have? Do you have a few
I actually
steer
don't have
on the
any
ranch?
yet. I'm still working
Okay.
on getting the fences constructed. I've got
Okay.
I've got a couple dozen chickens in a garden and an orchard, and that's about it at this point.
That's awesome. Well,
But
that's great.
it's great. Oh, I forgot to mention, I'm also a amateur beekeeper now. I went out and
No
got a
kidding. How many times have you been stung?
never. I have not been stung yet. Yet.
Give it
Yet.
time. Give it
Yeah.
time. You'll. Well, that's fabulous. I
You
understand
know,
in your spare time, for
mhm.
whatever that is, you're also a SpaceX fanatic, enthusiast, admirer. Have you installed Starlink at the ranch yet?
No, I haven't. I actually have
Uh,
FiOS out here, which is
okay.
fantastic. That was kind of the selling point for the property. Is it's like, oh yeah, it's really nice, but what am I going to do for high speed internet? It's like, oh, we got FiOS. It's like sold.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it'll be fun to watch Starlink roll out. I know a lot of folks in, gosh, West Texas and the sticks who love their Starlink. So
Oh
it's been
yeah, I
a
mean, how do you
great
not admire?
experience.
I'm said I'm not really that much into hero worship, but how are you not an Elon fanboy right now with everything he's doing, from Tesla to Starlink to the Boring Company to SpaceX? We're you talking about an exciting time in wireless, which it certainly is right now. It's an amazingly exciting time right now in the rocket industry, right?
Oh yeah, no, it's
In
stunning.
the exploration of space. I mean, not only what we're doing at Mars, but what we're doing to establish a permanent presence in space. I think it's amazing.
Exciting times all around. Well, thanks so much, Mike, for joining us and chatting about your mission and work at Dell, and onwards and upwards. Congratulations and being on the ORAN working group, and to look forward to seeing all your output.
Oh, thank you, Evan. I appreciate your time and really enjoyed our talk.
All right. Well, I'll end the broadcast and we'll keep in touch on social. I have Mike's Twitter handle. Mine is there. Feel free to continue the conversation. Bye
All
bye
right.
now.